computer won't load up here.
I wouldn't either. You up?
Around the television.
Try.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item tonight will be to approve the agenda pending any changes.
There are no changes this time to the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
All right, Mr. Wolf. Second. Mr. Abrams. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay. So the next time will be patron input regarding the upcoming school year.
Okay, yes, we have one individual this evening that went through the proper channels to request to make a brief statement to the board, Mrs. Silman, and she's going to, at this point, come and say a few brief words.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Silman. My address is 1602 Bermuda Drive, Festus, Missouri, 63028. I do have 3 boys, 15, 10, and 2 currently in district. I do have 2 concerns to share with you, and respectfully, I just want to say one quick thing about one of them. It's critical race theory. I really just wanted to make sure it wasn't being taught in our district, and I have contact info but it sounds like we're not, but I would like just confirmation that we are not teaching that. It is racist and teaching hate, in my opinion. So again, that's all I'll say about it. I just wanted to really make sure we were not doing that in our school district. I do appreciate your service to our district. I wanted to make sure I told you that too. Second was masks, and I know you're still deciding. I know there's a lot that goes into that. And I talked to the superintendent, so I know we're still deciding, and we won't have an answer right away. But I did want to say this. If you haven't done your own research, apart from what the health department says, what the CDC says, what the media says, then I don't know if you're hearing it all. So I know you have, I wanted to know if you have ears to hear. I realize it's a huge responsibility. You're trying to protect students, staff, yourselves. My own place of employment follows the CDC because we have to have something. I get it. But here's what I'm asking. Allow parents and guardians to make this decision. Send out a survey. I know you do surveys. I love the surveys. It makes us feel like we're a part. It makes us feel like we do have a voice. And I just personally believe mask wearing should be my decision as a parent to my children. No, sorry, I'm nervous, but thank you.
Sure. This makes sense. Good for you.
Thank you, thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. No, thank you for your comments. I'll hit both of them very quickly. I don't think there's any plans currently to change our curriculum as it stands here at the school. That's to your first point. Second point is, just like you said, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of things the board has to look at, consider. We have medical people that are employed by the district that, are looking at the data, looking at what's going on. We have various opinions here even amongst the board about what we believe and how we feel. And again, at the end of the day, we do have an obligation to keep kids and faculty safe. And that's what we're trying to do, right? And if there's any way we can do it and accommodate everyone, that's absolutely what I think we'd like to do. So I appreciate your comments, and I'm sure everyone else does. And I personally have been getting an enormous amount of feedback from the community about that specific issue. So again, I think I'm guessing everybody's getting it every day. So we're listening, and we will certainly, the patrons of the district, the constituents we have, their voice, that's why they elect us, is to make sure their voices are heard. So certainly hear yours and appreciate you coming, and thank you for the feedback.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to stay, or you, for the remainder of the meeting, or if you want to, depart, you can. It's up to you. So, okay, we're ready to move on.
Okay, so the next item will be good news, recognitions, and announcements.
And I don't think, we don't have a video this month, right, because the students are out of session. So we do still have a few good news announcements and recognitions, if I can pull them up here. We had several, when we ended school in May, had several individuals that were still going on with some of the spring activities. And we had several students receive some postseason honors. I want to say congratulations to Colin Riando and Cole Wagner, who made first team all-conference. Baseball, as you know, the baseball team had a successful season. Even in the season came on and won the district tournament. So, and we also had a couple students that were named second team all-conference. Those were Hayden Bates and Nate Moore. And then we also want to give some shout-outs to the honorable mention students. Tyler Busy, Wyatt Husky, Caleb Kennedy, Ian Brown, and Jackson Gross. We also had girls soccer, and those postseason honors for all conference. I want to say congratulations to Emily Holt, who made the first team. Also, congratulations to Jersey Moonier and Elena Axelben for making the second team, and then honorable mention to Lily Williams. And then also during summer school, had a class that was kind of a collective group learning experience, and we had several teachers for an economics class, economics objectives, have students develop their own economy to a degree where they created products, they marketed the products, they sold the products to other summer school students, kind of like a store, and they did make some money. The different classes that did that raised about $210, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're talking, some of the younger 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th type graders, that's quite a bit, and plus a limited time. But they sold their products, and then they donated all the money that they earned to a charitable cause. And they contributed to a very worthwhile organization that serves a lot of needs in Jefferson County and has for several years, the Brendan's Backpack Program. So again, congratulations to those. And then you also see there's a short information about some avenues that our faculty and staff have stepped up this summer to help a family that is among one of their colleagues who has had some circumstances that have been dealing with, and they've stepped up and raised some money to help with this transit, with this situation that has arisen. And so I want to say again, that's what another thing that makes Festus R6 special is always our own staff wanting to help one another out whenever they have items in need. So that's just some of our information. Good news and congratulations.
Okay, any questions from anyone? Okay. Good to see people helping others. Moving on, we have next the consent agenda. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Then we'll have any discussion.
So moved.
Mr. Nadler?
I'll second it.
Mr. Volk? Dr. Luttrell, any changes?
Yes, no, just a couple things, we have our second reading on those policies, once again. And then next month will be the third and final reading for those. Like I said, we just started our fiscal year, so our ledgers are pretty plain. As I'll get one in my superintendent's report, I'll talk a little bit about how we did in fiscal year 21. But so far, and because we're early in July, we have not even had our, we get our state payment every month, but about the 20th each month, so it's still early. We haven't even got our state payment yet this month, of course, and we're not, any of our federal funds would not come in until we request those later on in the fall. And then, of course, our local money, the majority of that comes in November, December, January through local property taxes. And so right now, there's really not much in the ledger other than our routine normal bills, and we have some of our 12-month employees and our summer school payrolls on there. But that'll pick up back in earnest next month. The other one there that you see that we're seeking approval on, and Mr. Abrams may want to comment. He was at our Hall of Fame, annual Hall of Fame committee selection meeting the other morning, and it's always a good discussion to look at the great things many of our graduates have gone on and done, that have been nominated for recognition. And there is an individual there that is being submitted for your recommendation. Again, it's not official in any shape or form until it's approved, and then the individual has to be contacted. So we ask again, it's when we speak of this individual, if you just want to label that person as the candidate or the recommendation rather than their name, that is best preferred. That the individual's accomplishments and that are all listed there. And that's probably one of the briefest consent agendas in a long time.
I have a question on both. One, regarding the second reading of the illegal discrimination, harassment, and retaliation, who was our AC coordinator? I probably should know that.
Now, you mean our
Would it be-
compliance or Title IX?
Title, okay, it said AC, but who is that? I thought so. And on the virtual courses, when they take the EOC, do they come here to take it, or can they take it?
This past year, because of the pandemic, we had students that learned online, but then when it came to the state assessment piece, DESE did not budge on that. And if they wanted to test, they had to come on site. And so we did make available, we made available special where we made sure they came at a time when they could be away from others, social
Because that was
distance.
the goal, right. Okay,
Everything.
And
Thank
we
you.
had 95% participation from our online students.
That's good. Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda? Is anyone opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Then we'll move to communications and reports. First item there is the superintendent's report.
Just a couple quick, like I said, it's the middle of summer, pretty quiet around except for a lot of the projects going on that are outside of our major capital projects. But we did have a summer school during June. We had about 1,200 students enrolled. We generated about 135 weighted ADA, which is going to really help us in our fund next year, because last year, as I said, because of the pandemic, we only generated about a 25 weighted ADA, which is really going to help our budget. And then heading into 20, as we get into fiscal year 22, we actually did only have, I think I reported out of the 1,200 kids. Now, we were spread out over 3 buildings. We did only, during that time, we had 4 positive cases. Remember, masks were optional during summer school. And those 4 cases, which was kind of wild about those 4, was, first off, none of them were directly contacted here at school. And then, but secondly, they were all in that middle age group of like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And none of them were connected. They were all at different times. So, I mean, and then out of those 4 positive cases, we only had an additional 4 close contacts, and the close contacts were a result because, again, the contact had occurred outside. It wasn't, so again, it was really successful in that arena as well, with the facial coverings being optional.
I have 2 questions. first question is, when kids are out of school for COVID or for close contact, does that affect your ADA?
This last school year, we had some avenues to where we were able to, because of what made available with AMIX days and that, we could code that. Plus, we also had the online option that we could move them back and forth to get attendance. This coming year, the state has done away with the AMIX, so we don't think we'll be, we will still be able to serve those students and get them their work, but it's not clear yet whether they're going to allow us to actually count them as here if they're sick because if they're out because of quarantine or because of a COVID, but we're still kind of awaiting that.
You're not talking about from a funding standpoint, right?
For what?
A funding standpoint?
In the last year, we were able to, but this year, right now, it doesn't appear that they're not going to be as flexible as they were last year because they want, again, their goal as well is to, again, try to get everyone back in school.
Okay, so my second question is, what percentage of the kids you think wore a mask at summer school?
There were some that did choose to wear a mask. I don't have an exact percentage. I know that every day when I was out and about, when I say we had 1,200 rows, we might have 800 to 900 on campus at any one time on day. And I'd say whenever I walk across campus or go into a building, there might be in every classroom, an average class size of maybe 20, 22. There might be one or two, but it was not great. But we did not by any means want to discourage anyone that wanted to from where
I was just curious. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Dunn.
And then we have also, from that, as we ended up our fiscal year, 21 last month, remember you said we would close out. We did finish the year pretty well, strong-wise, funding-wise. If you remember last year, our unrestricted fund balances, which we knowingly did, we like to keep that right at 30% or above, and last few years we kind of let that drop below because we were paying for some projects direct out rather than borrow the entire amount. And but we were actually able to, again, we increased our unrestricted balances in Fund 1 and 2, which direct result monetary-wise was about $800,000 to our bottom line. That our balances unrestricted balances went from that 26.7%. We're right at like 29.92%. So we're right there at 30% in Fund 1 and 2. And then our other fund, Capital Projects Fund, not counting any lease purchase funds that are in there, just the money that we normally keep, we were able to end with a balance in that fund of a little over $1 million. And that was after we chose on our own, like I said, to make about a $600,000 payment at the end of the year to one of our major projects that we have borrowed some money on so that we could just, knock a big portion of that out. Otherwise, if we had chose not to do that, which we could have, again, that capital projects budget would have went back to about 1.5, 1.6 million. And it's going to come back just, like I said, we knew going into all these projects, we were wanting to allocate some of our funding for that. So I felt good about that, getting the transfer made, the max transfer made to Fund 4, getting that back where it needs to be, then plus increasing our balances up to nearly right at 30% again, which, like I said, just ending balances in Fund 1 and 2 this year compared to in fiscal year 20 was a little over around $700,000 to $800,000. So we definitely had a good year there. So back to school information. As I said, the community newsletter that comes out every year as part of the leader is due out, I believe. Dr. Bruce is coming out next week, correct?
Is that right? Next week in the leader?
Yes, the 22nd.
And that'll have all the information about open houses, freshman orientations, registration, schedule pickup, the school calendar, a lot of those different, health notices and that. So watch for that. All that information is also on our website. It will be on our website Of course, the question everybody wants to know that was alluded to earlier is, what are going to be, what are we going to do with facial coverings? And that, like I said, that's the kind of inquiring minds want to know. It was funny, I hardly ever do it, but I went out between the board, between 4:30 and 6:30, I went out, got a quick something at a drive-through, and as I pulled up to that, I don't even really frequent this place much, but I pulled up, and the person that handed my food, who I did not know at all, but, looked at me, smiled, and said, "Is Festus wearing a mask or not this fall?" And I go, "Well," I said, what are you wanting?" And he says, "I really, I want to go to school, so I'll do whatever, but, I was just asking, and I said, "Well," I said, we're going to continue to monitor that. I mean, our goal is, and in talking to, a lot of the colleagues, our goal is definitely, especially based upon the success that we had back in, during summer school, would be that if we can start without mask and optional, have them optional, that's definitely, I think, the direction that majority by and far want to go. I do plan to pen a letter to parents and staff here within the next, 3 to 5 days, and then include as part of that letter a quick 1 or 2 question survey. Mr. Pope's already been working on a bit that just kind of, in a nutshell, tries to capture what people's thoughts and preferences are about as we head back to school. But regardless of whether face masks are optional or not, we will continue to be proactive, and we're still going to encourage students, if you feel bad or have a temperature or feel sick, stay home. We're going to have our hand sanitizing stations continue to be available. We're going to encourage good social distancing where we can. Because as I said, the CDC has said, schools need to be open. We are, again, not just trying to do our part, but the quarantines from the health department, said they're still going to be around, and that in terms of if someone is positive. However, anyone that is vaccinated, they have said, will be exempt from any type of a quarantine. So we will, just as we did in the spring, we have made some vaccination clinics available. We have one other vaccination clinic coming up here on the 22nd, down from 4 to 6. And then I believe the next shot for the second dose would be 3 weeks later on that same Thursday, same time, all down in this building, in this room. And we would encourage, again, at least people to think about, like I said, the higher the vaccination rates, the more chances are going to be that we will be able to have and keep our schools open uninterrupted. But again, we are going to make that available once again to try to, anybody that might still be wanting to get a vaccination, if they would choose to do so. But that's the big one, is like I said, the goal, hopefully we can get back to as much normalcy as we are used to outside of this past year, and we can have parents coming to campus and going in the building to have lunch, walking their child to class. We can have field trips and class parties. That's what I want to do. That's what I know the staff want to do that. Our parents want that. But at the same time, like I said, we have to monitor the landscape and do what we can to make sure that we can try to make that happen. Get our activities back in full swing, where we can have grandparents and aunts and uncles and friends and neighbors come and watch their loved ones compete and participate. So stay tuned, and hopefully by that, we're not starting until the 23rd of August, which is 39 days away, but we hope that we can definitely have a definite mask optional or mask required notification out there with some specifics by that very first week of August, which is around the 2nd, which is still 3 weeks out from the 23rd. Of course, last year, everything picked up there right at the end, but we'll see what happens. But right now, that's kind of some of our we're focused on back to school with our summer school. We have a second session of our secondary level going right now for credit recovery. We've got about 65 students that are attending that session. That session runs through the end of this month. This was day 7 of that session, and it's been going pretty well. One thing I did want to mention that we're also discussing this year this summer right now, and I still have to talk some more with the principals about it. And Ms. Stanley and I have been discussing, in the past, the state has come out in the past and said that if you have individuals that come into your school that are not employees, that are volunteers, chaperones, whatever, that you need to run a background check of some sort on to make sure that they are safe to be within the building. And ever since, the last 10 years, we have always chosen to run all of our people that want to do field trips, chaperones, volunteer coming to the building. We've had them fill out the one-page paper that we then send through to DFS, Division of Family Services, Child Protective Services, and because we mainly want to see, have they ever had a charge of hurting kids in any way? And so that's always been done. We always got that back within 24 hours, so it was a quick turnaround, and we just kept that master list, and it's worked pretty well, been cumbersome. The nice thing about that service was we did that, and it was free of charge. The state did that for free. And of course, all good things have to come to an end, and the state has now switched vendors, and they are no longer going to offer that service for free. It's now going to be, to get a single report back is $14. And so I think Mrs. Stanley and I were looking this morning or the other day, and I believe on a given year, we'll have about 800 different individuals that will, to some degree, submit one of those forms because they want to take part. So we're trying to do, Ms. Stanley has talked, we're talking with some other districts to see what they're going to do. Some districts, pay the cost. Some districts have the parent or whoever's coming in pay it themselves. Some choose to go with the more detailed background check of the Highway Patrol and charge them. Those are like $40 a piece. So we're trying to decide what we want to do. We want to make it as streamlined as possible to make so that our parents can still come in. The challenge with right now, even though there's no charge, when we send it in, it comes back right to Mrs. Stanley. We keep a big database. Even with the new system, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Stanley, even if we pay the $14, okay, it doesn't come back to us. We're still relying upon the individual to bring us the report. We want, so I mean, it's really, it's almost like the state wanted to get out of that business because they was either overloaded or whatever.
Get out of the business of protecting kids.
Yeah.
So
Good. I like the way you put that, because
So that is something we're talking about, is deciding what we're going to do or how we want to go about handling that. It is pretty much up to us how we choose that, but I'll hopefully come back next month or give you some updates on that of how we're going to decide to handle that. I think even if we wind up going with the $14 one that when they say the district paid the expense for, I think Ms. Stanley talked, I think there's a way we could still finagle, we could still keep somewhat of a semblance and kind of check to know who's good and who's not. But we just found this out within the last 3 or 4 weeks is when we found out that the DESI the state was no longer going to do that service. And then our first, like I said, our fall sports practices begin Monday, August the 9th. We're very excited about that. We'll have our cross country, going for historic, epic type victories this year with, based upon the prior accomplishments of what they'll be reaching for. Then we have our boys soccer, boys football, as well as our girls softball, which we're very excited about kicking off their season and kicking off their practices, in the new field as well. And then I know Mr. Pope has been planning also that alumni game, hopefully to break in the field, and we're hoping to have that scheduled, for here late in the month of July. So that's my superintendent's report.
Okay, any questions from anyone? All right, we'll move on then. Next item, Mr. Bollinger will give us an update on the ball field project.
Yeah, speaking of the ball, we've got our several contractors here that have been doing several of our projects. Mr. Bollinger from ATG is going to give us an update on that project. I also uploaded, he sent in a progress schedule update yesterday, and I uploaded that for you all. You can pull that up if you want to look at that. And then he'll tell you where he's at. And then, and Eric, if you want to come, you want to come. Mr. Allen is here as well from the high school as the athletic director. He's been watching that project as well, and as we head into the fall sports.
So we'll go over the last 2 weeks project progress that we've got. Ameren finally got the poles out on July 8th, so that was a good day. We've got the scoreboard installation started, roofing and dugouts, concession stand roofs are all getting started. All the block work for the dugouts and backstop are complete. Some sidewalks, batting cage, and bleacher areas are complete. All storm drains are complete. Our plan of progress for the next 3 weeks is to complete the roofing for the dugouts and the concession stand, complete the scoreboard installation, complete all the electrical connections for the lights. Of course, I didn't forgot that on top, but light poles are up. They were up for 2 weeks. Start electric, plumbing, and fixtures in the concession stand. Install a new sound system for the stadium. All the fencing installed around the perimeter of the site. Complete the drainage rock for turf by 7/28, and then start the turf installation by 8/8. I think we've already been able to move that up a couple of days, so hopefully get the kids out there and everyone out there as soon as possible. Really the only delays, rain is a big one. It seems like every 3 days we get 3 inches of rain. So it does kind of delay things, because if we do run out there on this rock and on these bases, once it rains, we could run it and cause some problems, which would delay things even further. So when it does rain, we have to kind of stay off the field for a day or two, depending on how much rain. Small rains don't really hurt us, just these really, really heavy rains because of the soils that we're working on. Fence fabric, it's been 6 weeks. They've told us it's going to be here this week. They still say it's going to be here this week. All the poles showed up, they're installed. Just waiting on the fabric. Anticipated being here any day. Of course, anticipated being here before we needed to do an install. And there are some current shipping issues on multiple things, just lack of truck drivers in the industry and common problem. Any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
Do you believe the field will be ready then for our, what day do you think the field will be ready for us to practice on? And then what day do you think we'll be able to?
So the turf crew will be here next Friday,
Okay.
because they're leaving a job in Tennessee, coming straight here. Turf's out there, the rubber's out there, everything's here.
Okay.
Our base contractor said they'll be ready next Friday. So we've been, like the one they're on now is exactly the same field, we turned it around in 10 days.
Okay.
So
So
they
you
anticipate the same thing here.
feel pretty good that we'll be able to start practice there?
Yeah, and we can bring them out there to practice.
But we don't need a backup plan. We don't need a backup. We don't have to worry about going to the city and saying we need to use any of your fields.
Not for practice, I think we'll be okay. I'll get with
But
Mr.
not for
Allen,
practice,
though.
or what about games? I mean, we got games starting that week of the 23rd.
Well, the bleachers, everything's gonna be in. I mean, everything has been built for a while, guys. We've been waiting on Ameren to get out of the way so we can do this. So everything is here, that's the positive thing. Now we just have to we're moving crews back as quick as we can now that the poles are gone. So I think we'll be in good shape by the 9th. I mean, there's gonna be things like the concession stand is gonna
Yeah.
have some little things to do.
I get the
The field's gonna be ready.
Okay, I mean,
So the crew that's coming on next Friday, they're coming from a college, so that they did in 10 days as well. So it's gonna take them another 10 days to do this one, and then they're scheduled to go to a football field after this. So obviously you know how important that is, so they gotta get out of here quick.
softball's important too.
All sports are important in fall.
So let me phrase my question a little differently, I guess. Is there any reason to believe that we will not be ready to play our first home game on the 23rd?
The 23rd of August?
August.
No, I don't think so, I think we're fine.
They'll work overtime if they have to, you mean?
Do what?
You'll work overtime if you have to?
We already are. We're working every day. I mean, so the crew that gets here, the turf crew will be here 7 days a week on Sundays, and daylight to dark. So that's why we're getting the lights, we're working on the lights right now to get those fired up so they're ready to go, turn on, even if we gotta work at night. So Trust me,
Be fine
we're
with
bending
us.
over backwards to try to get as much done as quick as possible. You know, obviously, this job was scheduled to be completed in May, so we don't want to be here right now.
Yeah, and I guess like, just, I've been, again, just feedback on waiting for this or waiting for stuff to arrive.
What's the pole?
It
We're
seemed
doing
like
an
some-
electric pole.
Well, I understand that, but like the fencing, I see you have 126 of work. You know, we approved this project in November, I think.
Mhm.
Is that right, November?
Well, we had some layouts and different things we had to.
Yeah, but-
You know,
Seems like-
finalize gates and all those
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're getting closer, we're getting nervous, Don.
Oh,
That's the answer.
Yeah, I
I'm in the
was-
same boat with you, so I can't,
Yeah.
trust me, it's
I
not.
mean, our AD's sitting back there and he's been sweating
You
bullets.
got me out on a Thursday night of the summer, buddy.
We're doing everything in our power to keep things moving and get things here.
Yeah,
There's
and,
nothing that, I'm just putting those notes on here so you know where we're at. Literally talked to the fence company today, and they said the fence would be here this week.
okay.
We got one more day this week.
I guess just for me and, you know, for Eric's benefit, I mean, the first day you see any of these days get pushed, I mean, make sure you
Oh,
communicate
yeah,
with Dr.
absolutely.
Latrell, with Eric, and we, I mean,
Absolutely.
we're gonna have to know.
Keep in mind, we really couldn't start scheduling the finishing stuff until that 8th, because we had to get the poles out there.
Understood.
But now, again, I'm gonna call a little bit, I don't agree with that part of the, I mean, again, it doesn't, here or there, but in Eric, they were out, and they were out before the end of the 8th. I mean, again, they were
That was the
out,
last day Ameren was on site.
they might have been on site, but it wasn't preventing any work from, all work being, because I didn't even ask Ameren. So, I mean, the part to say that you couldn't
Give
do
or take a
anything at
day
all.
of leave.
They could have been out there working on the dugouts before while Ameren was here, there wasn't anybody even out there working on dugouts all the way through the 8th. So, I mean, to say that work had to completely stop before, through the 8th, that's not accurate.
The only thing left on the dugouts is the roof.
But I'm just
We're
saying,
moving-
I'm
we're
just
moving
saying,
people
I'm just
back as
saying,
quick
I'm
as
just
we
saying,
can.
I'm just saying the 8th, when you're saying that Ameren was not out here till the 8th and that you couldn't work, is not accurate.
We couldn't do anything on the field until after the 8th. We could not do anything on the field until after the 8th.
I
No
disagree.
matter how-
I'm just saying,
disagree,
Ron,
but
I'm just saying, I disagree. You can disagree all you want, but I disagree.
Well, we started moving people back this way on the 8th
Okay.
from other projects. So now we are pulling people off of other projects that aren't complete.
That's not our problem, that's you. You're the one that signed on to it and said you could handle it.
Again, Ameren was, tell me that, so you're saying that Ameren wasn't gonna have the poles out in April or March or May?
Don, we talked about last winter,
That's
this,
what they-
that
that's what they said.
Ameren was gonna be
And
present.
we're doing everything we can now.
And I disagree a little bit with that, but I'm just saying that when you say that you couldn't do anything through the 12th is inaccurate,
They-
even the 8th. They were done the 2nd, and there were no trucks out there on the 5th or 6th that prevented you from working.
Okay, well, I guess where we're at
Keep
is,
moving forward.
we are gonna bank on everything being ready
Yep.
per this paper here. And again, if there's something that changes,
We'll work with Eric.
then make
No
sure we
problem.
know ASAP, because we'll have, I mean, again, the last thing we wanna do is be scrambling on August 8th, the fair where our kids are gonna practice,
Right.
and on August 22nd, trying to figure out where we're gonna have a home game.
We don't go beg in the city for a field, because they'll be gonna
Right.
charge us whatever they want.
We
Mr. Allen, do you have anything you wanted to ask any questions about
I just
backup
wanted-
plans or anything?
No, I don't want to think about a backup plan. Even though I thought about 14 of them, but that's beside the point. So the turf crew's going to be here next Friday?
Yes, sir.
Next Friday. Okay.
It's on the schedule right now, which is a few days ahead of this.
Yeah.
Now, is that even with, regardless, or is there weather down there going to impact that potentially here?
It could, but I think we got some time there for that. They'll be here Friday.
Okay?
So when they get here Friday, you're saying they're gonna work Saturday, Sunday, they're gonna work 10 days straight,
They do.
weather permitting.
We gotta get to another field. Yep.
We're like everybody else, we don't care about anybody else's field but our own.
I agree.
Okay.
I care about this one too. I live here.
That's right.
More than you think. Pains me to be here right now.
Okay, no, I appreciate the update, Don, and again, I don't think you've let us down in the past, so we'll bank on you having this sucker ready for us on the 9th.
All right, we'll do it.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, next item we have is a report from the architect and general contractor regarding the PAC and the amphitheater renovations.
So then Roy's going to come up, he wants to talk about a few things with the plans and the possible, some changes they're wanting to do. So Roy, then he and Bill can talk about the timeline and that.
Yeah, just to bring you up to speed, again, the PAC is well underway. A lot of the exterior skin, and I'll let Bill go into a little bit more detail, but a lot of the exterior skin is completed. They got the window systems up and some temporary doors. We did work with them on getting the mechanical units going so we could dry the place out. They're starting drywall and metal stud work and stuff like that. So it's progressing pretty well, both on exterior and interior work. As Dr. Luttrell said, we do have some modifications that we've had to make along the way, a lot of them having to do with some shop drawing review processes that we needed to modify or add some materials and stuff to the project. Right now we've got a number of them that we're reviewing. We just received one on Tuesday that we're diving into and getting into the costs and what those items were. So that we can then go back and review that with the contractor and then let Dr. Luttrell know where that ends up. So we're working on those right now. The city did come in and talk to us. They wanted to add a shunt trip to the electrical system, so we're working with Brock Miller on those additional costs, and we'll get those in line with what that's going on. So that's kind of a quick summary. Like I said, Bill can add some more detail. I wanted him to go ahead and give you guys some additional detail on that and some timing. And we can come back to that too real quick while I'm here. The amphitheater infill project, the floor framing is complete. The floor has been poured. So when you walk into that space right now, it looks like a normal classroom. There's not a pit anymore in that area. So that worked out real well. They're framing in there. And then they have currently electrical work going on, and we'll be doing some drywall and then setting mechanical units on that project. So we're staying in touch with them on a daily basis. We're always on the phone with the contractors and having the conversations that we need to keep the projects moving as fast as we can. So.
Okay, now go back on this, again, I want to go back on this whole, because you gave the timeline here, and we're still looking at sometime, it's supposed to be in late October, possible completion date, and Bill can weigh in on this. But then, when we talk of going back to the modifications you're looking at that we got presented on Tuesday, I still want to know in terms of where are we at with the whole, if we're talking modifications, that we were in the amount that I saw the other day, how is that, because I'm not going to approve it, that's going to have to come back to the board to get approved. Because we're not ready to tonight, you said. So that's going to put us all the way until late August when our next meeting is. So when we delay it that long, that's not going to impact your schedule?
No, sir.
What kind of additional cost are we talking? And what kind of, you said the city wants something else done now?
Yeah, during our review process, we submit plans in for, plan reviews, and a lot of comments come from the city at that time. During this process, as they were working on the electrical system and getting Ameren to come in and put power in and everything else, it came to our attention that the electrical needed to put in a shunt trip, and it's a safety mechanism that they wanted to get installed into the main power system. So it wasn't in the original set of drawings, but it indicated that they wanted that at that time, and it can be done either way. The city says that they'd like to require to have us put in this shunt trip for the safety aspects of the electrical system.
Is that something that should have been put in to begin with instead of letting the city decide?
No, our electrical engineer has indicated that he's done jobs in both fashions. So in our initial, always our initial design procedures will be to do the most economical design possible for the owner. There's no sense in putting in a shunt trip if they aren't requiring it or don't need it. So that's why we didn't put it in at the time. And then working with them through this process as it goes up, things like that come up from the city or for the fire marshal and those kinds of things.
And that one, Brett, the shunt one is not, I mean,
What's that cost?
the big, that's not, the big modification when it came up the other day is, that's not the shunt.
So what's the biggie?
The big one is a multi-item change order. And in that, there were some electrical modifications that we needed to make based on some shop drawing review process. There were some metal studs that we had to increase the weight of due to the operable partition. There was some additional blocking and additional framing that we needed to get in based on the manufacturer that was chosen for that we didn't have designed in there from day one. We had anticipated a different style. This style came in, it's a better style. We had to.
So who does the shop drawings and decides there's a problem?
We review those. The architect reviews all the shop drawings. And as we review those shop drawings, see, in the beginning of the project, we design according to a generic set of rules and comments. You know what I'm saying? We can't design for every specific manufacturer. So we design what we think has got, you know, the general scope covered. Once we get the review of the shop drawings that come in from the contractor, we dive into a lot of the detail that has been given to us through that manufacturer. In this particular case, this manufacturer required for the way we had this designed some additional structural elements that needed to go in to hang that system.
So you reviewed your own drawings and discovered there was a problem with them?
Not our drawings, no. We reviewed their shop drawings. So when you buy a product, that product comes with a lot of data from that manufacturer based on their product. Okay, at the time of the design, we don't have that data for that particular manufacturer because we're looking at more generic information from other manufacturers. When we did get that information, we wanted to make sure that that worked correctly, and so it required some additional structural components to the project. So again, we had to add some of those structural components so that this system worked the right way. I wouldn't want to give you guys something that would fall apart as it goes, and it causes a lot more problems anyway. So we need to go in and get those things taken care of during that review process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we don't want them falling apart either.
Yeah, and again, we have the best, you are the best interest in our mind when we're doing this stuff. I am not trying to add any cost to this project whatsoever. We're not trying to, do anything that is over and above the process. We just want to make sure that the product that you're getting is what you're paid for, and you're paying good money for that product.
Seems like Ameren's everybody's whipping boy. Everybody likes to point the finger at Ameren.
Yeah, they have added some cost.
But I also, like I was telling you, though I told Roy the other day, my biggest concern is here we are in the last stretch of this project, and then all of a sudden now when this request for information was put in back in January, we're just now getting it, and it's supposed to be a structural modification type deal. These things, to me, that should have gotten to us a lot earlier than in the final stages here this late. To me, that's the frustrating part. My end is we get because when we're talking this large of a project, all of a sudden somebody wants to bring in all these other change orders that add cost to it, to a project. That just, to me, is not the best route to take, especially whenever when it keeps happening. So.
Understand we had that discussion, we heard loud and clear, so we will work on, obviously getting a lot of this stuff wrapped up here in the next month that we've got this project wrapping up.
I would recommend that by July, but in August, when we come here in August, to me, we should have whatever's going to, at that point in time, there should be whatever you're going to say we need to consider approving, that'd be it. That there's not going to be coming in September and October other new costs unless it's something that we initiated on our end.
And we certainly will come back to you in August with everything we have to date by August, for sure.
So are we kind of, if we
is this gonna be something we're gonna have to approve in all this, or we might have to worry about the thing falling apart in
No,
20 years like that
No,
condo in Florida?
No, we won't go that route. There will be some costs that we need to work through and have you guys look at. And again, we are vetting those costs with the contractor, and making sure that they are legitimate costs. There's not extra costs added to it by subcontractors. We're vetting through those to get market value costs on that for your use.
So basically, we're gonna have an extra cost, we just don't know how much it's gonna be yet.
There will be, yes. And again, right now,
Change order is like a dirty word to me.
it is, but on a $12 million project right now, we're right at 1.6, 1.7% of that, of the project. So I think right now, it looks, we're in pretty good shape. Nobody likes change orders, believe me. But anything under a 5% is in our world, in our industry, is a good project moving forward. So I'm not saying we're gonna get to 5%, don't quote me on that. I'm just telling you that overall, on the $12 million project that we have, being at 1.6%, we're in good shape. So
I think 0.5 would be a heck of a lot better.
I agree. I'd like a 0, to be honest with you, but
Well, I
I've been in
would
the
too,
business
definitely.
30-something years and have not. But this project, I do have to say, this project is running very well. I can't wait for the day you guys are able to go and walk through that site. You've got a really nice add to your school district, and I think there's going to be a whole lot of proud people that have supported this all along the way. We will work very hard to get this process going for you guys and keep your interests in mind, as we always do.
I just have one question.
Uh-huh.
Mind you, this is not my expertise.
Sure.
But when you put in a bid, do you put a percentage for change orders or no?
We recommend to the owner that
Okay.
they should carry a 5% contingency.
Right, I remember that when
Right,
we
we talk
were
about the
first. I thought,
contingency.
okay, like the big rock problems and.
Exactly.
Okay.
So when the bids come in from the general contractor, they're at a certain price, right? So that was the 12 million. We recommend to all owners that from the day they sign the contract with the contractor for their bookkeeping, to keep that 5% contingency for some of the unforeseen conditions. And like I said, we're at 1.7 right now.
Right, okay, thank you.
Can I just ask, like, if you have some specific big items that you're gonna bring to us, like, will you be able to show us, like, what your RFQ look like versus what the suppliers, how they provided a response to that, so.
Yeah, I can certainly bring you a lot more detail
Okay.
on
Okay.
that in August, and explain to you in detail, what our modifications were to the contractor and what they came back with.
Okay, I mean, I understand exactly what you're talking about as far as your design and what they're providing, but I don't want the supplier to act like, well, we didn't know that when it's in your design somewhere.
Yeah,
And then try to make us pick up something that they should have caught.
Right, and that's exactly why I can't tell you today,
Okay.
because as the designer, I'm talking to the contractor on, hey, this should have been in there, so I'm not approving that part. I'm saying this is an additional add, and we feel that this is market value price, I'll approve that, okay? We are vetting out line item by line item and actually asking for additional backup so that we can see what the material costs are, what the labor costs are, what the overhead and all of those line items that you can put together a bid on. We want to see those so that we can actually verify those against market costs, so that they're not doubling up the labor or they're not doubling up the material costs. We vet that out and we make sure that we're getting the correct cost for those changes.
Okay, and again, I think what I'm interested in is how is the original design different from what's being supplied? Or
Okay.
what's causing the change?
I can explain that when I come back.
Okay, that's
I'll
fine.
have a little more detail on that, and I'll use one of these examples as an example of how that works.
Okay.
But I'll let you know how that works.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll let Bill give a little bit more detailed update on the construction and what to look forward to.
Well, next Wednesday will mark the 1-year anniversary of being on the job site. Originally, we had committed to 430 days, which is just about 14 months. And so getting started on July 21st of last year, despite having over 10 weeks of weather delays on the project, we're currently showing about a 3-week push beyond that September 24th date, which was the 430 days. In our meeting on Tuesday, I told Dr. Luttrell that I wanted to modify that forecast for when we're going to be complete by a couple weeks to later in October. Really for no specific reason other than I've never seen in my 25 years in this business supply chain disruption like we're seeing right now. And it's not just one thing, like when copper went crazy, or steel went crazy, or crude oil went crazy, and everything associated with those products were getting more expensive and getting harder to get. Every day it seems like there's something different and unusual that is creating delays. The good part about what we have done to date is a lot of the big things that we need, most of them are on hand. Our intent is always to have every product on hand as soon as we can. That way we know we have it. But some things haven't shipped yet. Some things we can't get until we've reached this stage of the construction process. For instance, the metal panels that are going on the outside of the building. It wasn't until last week or 2 weeks ago, after we got the storefront installed, that we could confirm where those lines were going to be for the panels, field measure them, and get them ordered. So even though we knew a year ago we were going to be doing this project, it's the current supply chains that are kind of dictating whether or not those panels will be ready in the 2 weeks that we normally get them, or whether it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks. From what we've seen right now, I don't know of anything that is going to push that timeline beyond the October 15th date, which is about a 3-week delay from our original commitment. I don't have anything specific that I think is that's going to push it back. But there are still some things that we don't yet have in hand. Some of the big things, we know that seating is supposed to be shipped. The theater seats are supposed to ship and be here by September 9th. The Vivo railing, which was a real long lead time item, that's all that glass and metal railing, it's all supposed to be here by the 3rd week of September. So a lot of the big things we feel pretty comfortable with, but it's those things that we don't have yet that we don't even know are going to become a problem. One real simple thing, it's not going to delay the project, but in the public bathrooms, we have mirrors that have a light around the outside. They were supposed to be here back in June. Now they're telling us they won't be here till October 26th. And they just told us that 2 weeks ago. Those sort of unexpected things are the reason that I'm just putting a little cautionary note on that middle of October date. And I'm thinking that for everybody's comfort level, I'd like to say that I'd like to extend that forecast more towards the latter part of October. My schedule that I have, that we're running with all the subcontractors and our team, I'm still showing October 15th. And I don't see anything in there that I think will prevent us from hitting it. But just be aware that there are some things that are out of our control and some things that could still crop up. But we're still shooting for that earliest date possible we can get. If I can bring it in September 24th, still I would do it. 10 weeks of weather has been a little hard to overcome, but with only a 3 or 4 week delay, I think we're still in pretty good shape for what we've encountered. It's an exciting project. We have a lot of enthusiasm on the job site. We've been blessed with good subcontractors, and I think it's coming along really well. We're finally hitting that point where we've got the structure and the rough ends done. As Roy mentioned, from the outside, all the major components on the outside are installed right now except for those metal panels and a little bit of the sheet metal coping that goes on the top of the parapets and then the outside of the storefront. Those will come together in the next 4 to 5 weeks. We're already starting to grade out the site. We're going to start on concrete curbs, sidewalks, stairs in the next week or two. So we'll see the outside start to really pick up. And on the inside, since we're past the point that all the structure is done and the rough ends are done, now we're getting into doing the finishes. You'll see more drywall and metal stud framing go up in the next 4 or 5 weeks than I think you'll ever see at once. We've got anywhere from 8 to 10 guys right now doing the metal stud framing and the drywall. So we're gonna get a lot of rock up, we're gonna be taping it, painting it, and then we're gonna get into the other types of finishes. And this is probably one of the more intricate and complex finish projects that we've ever done. Every layer, as you can imagine, when you walk into that front lobby, there's a lot of things there that are going on that are just gonna have that special kind of finish to them. And so it takes a little longer to do those because there's so many steps involved. Just for one example, the terrazzo flooring that we're gonna have in that main lobby and down the concourse, it will take about 8 weeks to install from the time the contractor arrives. So 2 full months just to put that flooring system down. And that's kind of some of the things that drive the schedule for a lot of the other things that have to happen there. We anticipate them coming in about the middle of August. We've tried to work all the areas that they're going to impact while they're doing that, because there's sometimes that they're doing that process that everybody else has to be out of there. You can't be doing anything. And there's sometimes where we could be in there still doing other work. We think we've got a good plan for it, but that's just one example of the flooring. And there's a lot of other things that are going on in there. The ceilings, the metallic metal panels that go around a lot of the vestibules and concession, a lot of special ceiling effects. I can't wait to see it myself. It's going to be a phenomenal project. And right now, we're all trying to figure out how to keep everybody going in the right direction with the right priorities. But I think we've got a good team on it right now. Any questions about the schedule or anything else about the project?
Any reason to believe the seats won't show up when they say?
Seats typically come from Mexico, and I have seen them delayed in the past. As of right now, they're on schedule to hit customs in early August. So unless there's some holdup there, I don't anticipate that we'll have a problem seeing them by September 9th. In that September 9th, we've got a little bit of float time. If they didn't show up till another week or 2 after that, we can still get it installed because they can install those seats probably in about 6 or 7 days. You know, we have some other things to do after that, but I don't have any concerns right now with the seat.
Seats are pretty important.
Very important, very important. You know, right now, the stagehands are putting all the stage rigging up, and that's been very interesting to see. It's in their estimation, I've asked them, because they work all over the place, I said, how does this compare to other high schools you've done with stage? And he said, this is state of the art. You know, he said, it's a really great system, and but there's a lot up there. You know, you've got over 25 or 26 line sets. I think 14 of those line sets have motorized hoists that move things either up or down, or they bring in the orchestra shells. Every one of those has a structural load that's got to go up to the ceiling, and it's got power, and it's got controls. So it's very exciting to see all this happen. We're getting to the point that about all the hoists are up in the air now, and next week we'll probably start putting power to those, and they'll start operating them just to see them go up and down. So a lot of really good things are happening right now.
How long of a warranty is there normally on something like that, the hoist?
I don't know. Typical is 1 year, and
Yeah,
or
I believe there are, there's a longer, don't quote me on this, but I think there's like a 5 or multiple year warranty on some of those particular items, the motorized items and stuff like that. So.
Okay.
Any other
Any other
questions?
questions?
Okay.
Done?
The only thing I'll add is, I
I deal with shipping problems every single day, so I know exactly what you guys are going through, so.
Yeah,
It's a different time right now for sure.
It
but
really
It
is.
seems like, as long as you guys are trying and plugging ahead, we'll be fine.
Well, anytime something does come up, and that's where we come together as a team, and we'll get with Roy, and hey, drywall, can't get impact-resistant drywall right now. So we made a switch to a different manufacturer, and those are the type of things that we're doing to kind of work on those.
Yeah, we've had multiple discussions on materials, we had a number of them that couldn't be found. And so we did some research and we worked with these guys to be able to come up with a more equal product and make sure that we get that same performance out of the secondary product that was available. So that's been happening all throughout this project. So it hasn't been a very simple project by no means, but it's come along great. I can't wait for you guys to see it.
Yeah.
So, Bill, you want to talk about the amphitheater as well?
Amphitheater's moving along real well. We're starting to hang drywall this week. We're projected for completion by August 13th. I don't see any problems with that. We're actually a little bit ahead of the original schedule that we had. And so hanging drywall this week and next week, and then we'll start to tape and paint. And as soon as they finish that, then we're in the ceilings and the finishes. So I think that'll come together real well.
And the bathrooms?
Bathrooms, I don't have a real specific update, but we've got all the demolition done, the flooring has started. I think they have completed the bathroom rough-ins for the one bathroom that we had to add. So right now, I believe that we're on schedule to get that done. Do you remember what the date that we had set with that was, Dr.?
So they're going to be right around the week of the, it's going to be right at the end of like the
15th or right around
the
there?
15th to the 19th, somewhere in the 16th to the 20th in there. It was
Right.
going to be right, but they wouldn't be ready for the first of the year, which is, as long as we got that, we're good.
Yeah, and so far, we haven't seen any issues with delivery of some of the most important items like the ceramic tile and the fixtures. I think those are all here, so I think we're in good shape. Okay.
Okay, other questions?
All right, thank you
All
very
right,
much.
Thanks, guys, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
See you next month. Okay. And the next item will be the Missouri School Board Association Annual Advocacy Platform.
As you know, we've got, Missouri School Board Association, which is an organization that many school districts belong to that keep abreast of all the statutes that impact public education, try to advocate for, what's best for students, best practices. And every year they compile a platform that they try to put out that lists each principles that we're going to advocate for on a variety of issues that have a tendency to impact education. And so last week I just thought I'd share those with everyone, let them know, so in case you had any ones you want to look at. But now's the time of year we're getting ready to go into the fall to gear up for next year. If you read through any of those and there's like, I don't think it ought to be this way, or they ought to maybe add this to it, you can definitely, as a group, talk about that, and then we can, like I said, President Edding could, they give a form, they won't, and we could respond as a board if you had any particular ones and submit that to them, and they would consider that. And then some would be, those of you that have been to the MISBA convention, they always have the big delegate assembly, that's where they kind of take a lot of these things. It becomes a final platform that all the members that are delegates vote on at their meeting, which will be later in the fall. President, if you want to add any on that.
No, if you guys haven't looked at that advocacy
Are
paper.
you kidding? I've highlighted it, I did
I said not going to draw a long string of comments, so I'd suggest that you look at it because there's
Yeah.
mostly
Some-
good stuff in there. There's
Yeah.
some things that I personally disagree with, and I've listed on my sheet, and you guys know, take a look and, take 15 minutes and go through there and read some of the things that are in there.
It is quite interesting, like the underfundings, the health insurance, MSBA supports legislation providing a statewide health insurance solution for school districts. I wonder if that would be better for Missouri teachers and administrators, and, I wouldn't have even thought of that. Did they say they support it, but did they do homework on it? And I don't know.
There's a lot of things in there that, it's like, I read what you're saying,
But,
but where are you going with this?
yeah, like preschool, universal preschool. Would that put the private schools out of business? Is that a tax base for us? I mean, just lots of questions while you're reading it as opposed to,
I was going to say, a lot of it's not very clear, I don't think.
Some of it was not
Support-
clear, you
They
know.
support changes, but they don't always say what the changes are or what the,
Right.
Well, I think we can put those down on a paper and submit them to MSBA, and not that we'll get answers, but, you know, it's possible that, you know, there could be questions raised or feedback provided. I mean, I specifically asked the MSBA advocacy guy for some feedback on some of those things. So, but anyway, if you get a minute to look at that stuff, and maybe if you send Dr. Latrell your comments, we can maybe compile them.
We've got till like late August to get reply.
All right, so we can at least submit a list of questions or comments or suggestions. Okay, next, move on to prior new business. The first item there is approve the new district-wide strategic plan, R6 and 26. And I think everybody's got a,
Okay, yes, well, you know, we've been working on this for, because our Vision 2020 expired in June of 2020, and we started that process, got rid of the pandemic. Dr. Reese started that back up, we brought you the drafts. And so last month, we kind of showed you what it was looking like, and we kind of wanted tonight, Dr. Reese was going to take some time and kind of walk through what would be our 99.9% final product that we're going to ask you to approve. And if approved, will then would become our plan of roadmap to guide us over the next 5 years. You know, what we want to, it's basically, it's like, where do we want to be in 26 areas like finance, staffing, programs, academic achievement, facilities. That's all answered right in here. So Dr. Riss, I'll let you take and talk.
Yep, just a couple of minutes. This is still a draft form. This is not the final. We only made enough copies just for you all to take a look at it so you can see and give us any more suggestions, because we need to finalize it pretty quickly so that we can get any of the edits made. And Mr. Pope has done a fantastic job working, getting the pictures and design and all of that. He did that for us, so I appreciated that very much. But if there's anything, as far as the content goes, I gave that to you last month. None of the content changed from last month as far as objectives, strategies, action steps. Those are all still the same. So I wanted you to kind of get the visual, if you like how it looks, if there's anything you think we should add. We tried to include pictures from all across the district. We tried to include, you know, elementary, intermediate, middle school, high school, extracurricular from all sorts of extracurricular that we do. Again, there are only so many pages, so we can't put everything in there, but we tried to have a really good cross-section of all of that. We do have a couple of other edits we're going to make, just picture-wise, kind of, you know, cosmetically to it, I guess. But as far as the content, it has all been vetted through the principals, through the committee, the stakeholder committee of all those parents. Everyone who participated is listed in the back. I think it's the last page of people who contributed to the development of the Vision 2026. And as I was telling Doreen earlier, to see it in its final form, I'm really excited about, because this started in November of 2019 was our kickoff meeting. So I'm glad to finally see it in its somewhat final form. So if you have anything as you look through it, please email me or Dr. Latrell, and we'll change or edit or make corrections. But we're hoping to have it finished and complete so we can have copies for the teachers when they return at the start of school. And we also like to have it for the new teachers. New teacher orientation is August 9th, and I'd like to have a final for them when we meet with them. So.
okay, any questions? Okay, excited to get this done and ready to go. Thank you. Okay, then the last item there is the discussion of the vacant Board of Education position. And,
Yeah, we talked last month, and we kind of said you might want to take a month just to chew it over, and you would kind of bring it up back tonight. And as we said, you know, the way the policy reads is you can go with 6. You could choose to appoint. But I think it would be good one way or the other if there could be a consensus as to, so that the general public would know what to expect moving forward. If there's, going to hold for now with 6 or try to appoint. But you all, that's what you probably need to, just thought we'd put that back out there, see if any of you had any additional thoughts to share.
I'll go ahead and just, I've thought a lot about this over the last month, and I think I made the comment the last board meeting, and I think I feel even more strongly about it this month, that, I mean, given the current political climate, I think constituents should elect board members. And I just don't feel like for us to go out and choose one. I'm sure, I mean, I know there's multiple people that are interested, and kudos for them for being interested and willing to step up. But I just don't think that now is the right time for us to pick somebody. I think there's, again, I think the political climate, there'll be a lot of finger pointing. And again, I'm happy to listen to it or take it, but I just think that at the end of the day, the constituents should elect the school board member, and the school board should not select the member. So that's my opinion, and I'm more than
I
willing
have
to listen
to
to
second
everyone
it,
else.
I've been thinking the same thing. I don't want that responsibility. I kind of agree with you on it, but I will go with the majority.
You have to.
This is true, this is true, yes.
So I don't think I feel strongly the other way. Again,
Right.
I'm willing to listen, and if you can convince me to change my mind, I might do that. But, and again, if we feel like that's the thing to do, I'm willing to do that, and you know, I'm willing to take on the burden of whatever grief we would take for doing that. But again, at the end of the day, I still think that the constituents should elect the school board, and I'm not comfortable with us selecting someone, and, you know, we're picking somebody that the voters should elect. I don't know, that's what I feel about it.
I know I'm not gonna change your mind. I'm not even gonna try. I do know that since I've been on here, we've had to select two, and we did a good job, I think, the two we did select. So I'm sure we got fingers pointed back then.
Sure, I mean, it's, like I said, it's,
I'd like to see, you know, there's only 5 of us here tonight. Hopefully there's not a time where there's only 4 of us.
agreed.
I'm kind of on the fence. I see it both ways, though, but I agree with what you're saying.
I agree that also, but then I also agree that we picked 2 good ones.
Well, no, I agree with that, but yeah, I mean, it's, I do feel like I use the term political climate, but I do think it's much different today than it was.
It probably is.
You know,
And if we
2
wind
or
up
3 or 4
doing
years
it,
ago.
you know, I'm sure we'll do our homework. We're not just gonna flip a coin.
Right.
But
I'm good either way. I mean, I do agree 100% with what you're saying about the current political climate, and, you know, it's, but I do also, I see the other side where I think we have an obligation to appoint somebody for full board, but I will go with the majority here on this one.
So I got 3 fence riders.
You want to take another
Well,
month?
We don't have to decide tonight. If you guys, we want to wait till Mr. Mundo returns and hear what he says. He'll be back
Yeah,
next
'cause
month.
it probably would be better if he was here. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, we can kick the can as long
I
as
know how I'm
we
gonna
need to.
vote, but I think Doug should have his vote also.
Yeah. It's important, I feel. that
Okay,
it's-
sure. No, okay, so we'll put this on the agenda for 1 more month.
Be great.
So, how much have you heard from very many people that are interested?
Yeah, well, when it was in the day that it was in the leader of the article, I've had 2 or 3 people just say, hey, if you need, I need, you know, I mean, that's one thing. I mean, I think people, you know, we've got a reputation of being a strong school board, and they always do their homework, and the people want to be a part of a good thing, and it's great that you've got people interested, but no one has been overbearing. They just, hey, you know, I might be interested, let me know what might come, and but in the last month, I haven't had it.
Good. All right, we'll include that on next month's agenda. Okay. Anyone else have anything for open session? If not, I'll entertain a motion with the roll call vote to enter into executive closed session with a closed record and closed vote pursuant to RSMO 610.021, sections 3, 13, 6, 14, and 2. Mr. Wolk?
Second.
Mr. Abrams, will you poll the board, please, Ms. Stanley?
Becker?
Yes.
Wolf?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes?
Mr. Abrams?
Yes.
Mr. Beresowski?
Yes.
Okay, we'll take a quick 5-minute break, and then we will return return